Hello everyone, welcome back to section 3. The managers in the organization are living in a world of bounded rationality. They make mostly good decisions, but sometimes it happens that some biases and errors exist in the process of their decision making. I'm going to talk about these biases and errors in decision making in the rest of this section. The first one is overconfidence bias. It is a pretty simple one to understand. It reflects people are overly optimistic about how right they are. Studies have shown that when people state they are 65% to 70% sure they are right, those people are only right 50% of the time. Similarly, when they state they are 100% sure, they are usually right about 70% to 85% of the time. Overconfidence in one's correctness can lead to poor decision-making. Interestingly, studies have also shown that those individuals with the weakest intelligence and interpersonal skills are the most likely to exhibit overconfidence in their decision-making. So managers should watch for overconfidence as a bias when they are trying to make decisions or solve problems outside their areas of expertise. The second one is the anchoring bias, which is a tendency to fix on the initial information as a starting point for making a decision, and the failure to adjust for subsequent information as it's collected. As we discussed earlier in the applications of shortcuts, interviewers tend to pay a disproportionate amount of emphasis to the first information they receive. Similarly, if a manager asks you for an expected starting salary, your answer will likely anchor the manager's impending offer. Anchors are a common issue in negotiations and interviews. The third one is a confirmation bias. It represents the gathering of information that supports one's initial conclusions, which demonstrates a case of a selective perception. People seek out information that reaffirms their past choices and tend to put little weight on those things that challenge their views. Kahneman gave an example. When asked, "Is Sam friendly?" different instances of Sam's behavior will come to mind than would if you have been asked, "Is Sam unfriendly?" There exists a deliberate search for confirming evidence. The fourth one is availability bias. This bias suggests that decision makers use the information that is most readily available to them when making a decision. For example, more people fear flying more than driving in a car, but data shows that flying is safer than driving because the media give more attention to air accidents. We tend to overstate the risk of flying and understate the risk of driving. Availability bias shows our reliance on the ease of memory search, the availability heuristic, which can also explain why managers give more weight in performance appraisals to recent employee behaviors than to behaviors of 6 or 9 months earlier. The fifth is the escalation of commitment, which refers to an increased commitment to a previous decision, even if there is clear evidence it's wrong. Imagine a company that has already spent $50 million on a project. The project is now behind schedule, and the forecasts of its ultimate returns are less favorable than at the initial planning stage. An additional investment of $60 million is required to give the project a chance. An alternative proposal is to invest the same amount in a new project that currently looks likely to bring higher returns. What will the company do? The firm affiliated by sunk costs is more likely to throw good money after bad rather than accept the humiliation of closing the account of a costly failure. Although an escalation of commitment keeps people for too long in poor jobs, unhappy marriage, and unpromising research projects, persistence in the face of failure is responsible for a great many of history's greatest feats. People should learn to combat the tendency to automatically escalate commitment. The sixth one is a randomness error, which refers to the tendency of individuals to believe that they can predict the outcome of random events. Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, emphasized that individuals' preference for casual thinking exposes them to serious mistakes in evaluating the randomness of truly random events. Consider stock price. Financial advisors feel they can predict the flow of stock prices based on past performance, but on any given day, those stock prices are completely random. The seventh one is risk aversion. It reflects the tendency to prefer a sure gain of a moderate amount over a riskier outcome, even if the riskier outcome might have a higher expected payoff. Imagine which would you prefer. Choice A, toss a coin. If it comes up heads, you win $100, and if it comes up tails, you win nothing. Choice B, get $46 for sure. For many people, they prefer choice B, $46 for sure. A 50 to 50 flip of a coin, even for $200, might not be worth as much as a sure promise of $46, even though the gamble is mathematically worth more. The last one is a hindsight bias. It is a tendency to believe falsely after an outcome of an event is actually known, that one would have accurately predictable that outcome. Imagine yourself before a football game before two teams that have the same record of wins and losses. Now the game is over, and one team trusts the other. In your revised model of the world, the winning team is much stronger than the loser, and your view of the past as well as the future has been altered by the new perception. Individuals incorporate not only their own biases, but also their own characteristics in their decision-making. Personality, such as characteristics outlined in the Big Five dimensions, can influence decision-making, such as conscientiousness and self-esteem. Gender also plays a role in decision-making. Women tend to analyze decisions more than men, and this can cause them to ruminate over their decisions. Women also tend to be more empathetic, and this can cause them to think about how their decisions impact others. Mental ability and cultural difference also influence decision-making. In addition, an organization can constrain decision-makers through performance evaluation systems, reward systems, and formal regulations. Of course, decisions aren't made in a vacuum. They have context. Historical precedents also influence the choices made today. Until now, we have increased our understanding of biases and errors in decision-making. This knowledge are very helpful for use to avoid most common biases in our decision-making. In the next section, we will talk about ethical issues and the creative decision model. Thank you very much for your watching. See you next time.